Hey everyone, welcome back to the Future of Work Weekly Report. I am your host, Zach Wright, founder of Grapevine Software. We're a virtual office platform that helps companies communicate important information across their teams, giving leaders a clear way to share updates while ensuring employees can easily access what they need when they need it without having to search so many tools. Instead, you search it in Grapevine. All right, today is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do with the Future of Work Weekly Report, and I'll explain it. We got some slides that we created in Canva, and I want to present them here in a moment. But the thing that we're going to be talking about today is a comparison. So there's two articles that have been floating around, at least in my sphere of the LinkedIn community that we have over there. And it's a 2019 article from PWC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, versus the most recent article in 2024. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be comparing what PWC said about flexible work in 2019 versus what they're trying to do in 2024 and try to connect some of the dots for you. And so let me go ahead and share my screen so we can be on the same page here. And I love this this title page here. So what we're going to be talking about is PWC's journey from sweatpants to surveillance, a breakdown of PWC's flexible work approach from 2019 to now 2024. The articles that we're going to be using, the title of one is What PWC Learned from Its Policy of Flexible Work for Everyone. That is the 2019 article. And then we're going to look at the 2024 article that was just released not too long ago. PWC tells employees it will use location data to police back to office rule. Now, that is the headline, but we'll talk about why that is kind of strange to hear. All right. So the changing face of flexibility at PWC. In 2019, PWC embraced flexible work with open arms, encouraging autonomy and trust. Think about that word, trust, as we go through this. Fast forward to now, 2024, flexibility now comes with a touch of oversight. We say that kind of sarcastically. So like we do in the other Future of Work weekly reports, we do have the key focus of certain sections, and then we do have a breakdown of the call outs here. So let's go ahead and go to the 2019 article, Everyday Flexibility Policy. That's what they called it. It was called Everyday Flexibility. So we titled this one Trust and, let me go back. We called it Trust and Autonomy. And so PWC's 2019 flexibility policy emphasized everyday flexibility where no formal rules or rigid guidelines dictated how employees should work. Now, this is before the pandemic. It was about trusting employees to get work done when and where it suited best for them. One of the quotes that they call out here, which I think is kind of fascinating, knowing the future, so to speak, from the 2019 to 2024, the call out here is flexibility isn't one size fits all. Everyone deserves the same degree of flexibility based on their individual needs. So what they specifically call out here is that a woman might need a little bit different time or approach. There was one employee quoted where she used to every single morning for the last 10 years, she signed on to a 7:30 a.m. PST time because the other people were in EST, and she had to wake up earlier to put on the makeup, to have at least some type of like professional attire and take that extra step to get to where she needed to be so she looked presentable. Fast forward to now relatively it's 2019, let's say that we're there, and she says I can take the call without makeup, I can take the call with a sweatshirt on in my pajamas, it doesn't necessarily matter, as long as I'm there, I'm participating. So that was a different thing for them in 2019. Another call out that I wanted to say here, or a quote, is trust is given, not earned. PWC's approach in 2019 was about trusting employees from the day they were hired to manage their own work. I just want to go over here. Yeah. Okay. So actually, I should have been here. But so just think about that. Trust is given, not earned. And so what they're saying here is that, hey, we trust our employees. I mean, we hired them for a reason. They're getting work done, and we're not going to strong arm them into having to come back into the office or be here for no apparent reason if they have other things that they need to do, but they're still getting the work done, right? And so if we look at the bullet points over here, we talked about everyday flexibility, no rigid rules. And the reason that they did that from the article is because whenever you make rigid rules, people often want to rebel against it, or they feel like they don't have that autonomy. And so they don't actually have control of their own work, which they just said here in the 2019 that they said 2019 was about trusting employees from the day they were hired to manage their own work, right? These are professionals. And so they should know how to manage their work. They should know how to get their work done no matter where they work or how they work. And that's what they say here. Employees were trusted to manage their time. It's not about the where you work, but the output, right? That is huge. Now, the thing that I didn't get to see here, because they are two different articles, they weren't meant to be shared together. I didn't see if productivity or the cultural sentiment was higher or lower in 2019 to 2024. But there must have been, if they're talking about trust is given, not earned, there must have been something from 2019 to 2024 that occurred to make them think about the flexibility policy that they had. And then they said flexibility is for everyone, no exceptions. Now, this is something that I wholeheartedly agree on. If you can, right? Not every organization can do this in the sense of the exact flexibility, equity for everyone. But what they can do is offer flexibility to everyone. And so basically what they're saying here is, they didn't say this specifically, but this is an example of what we've seen before, where some organizations will require the leaders to come back into the office, and then eventually they'll get the employees back in. But flexibility for everyone means that if you are going to offer flexibility to the leaders, then you have to offer it to the employees, and vice versa, right? And so that's what they mean here. And I think that takes away a lot of internal, I mean, even though that we see this in the studies from Nick Bloom and different things from like Flexa or the Flex report, we see that the frontline workers aren't actually negative. They don't have a negative feeling about the people who can work flexibly or work remotely. They understand that they have to do their job in person, but what they can do is give them more flexibility in other areas, right? Or it gives them a goal, if they have this, to go up the rankings where they can get to that position where they can work remotely, or do a vertical move or a horizontal move to get to a position where they can work remotely. Take a sip of my coffee. Look at the mug here. Got a little mummy. Okay. All right, a little ASMR there. So now let's go ahead and go to what 2024 looks like. So this is the comparison, right? So we had flexibility, everyday flexibility in 2019. Everybody deserves flexibility. They deserve trust. It's given, not earned. So let's look at what 2024 is calling out here. Return to office and location monitoring. Let's just pause on that for a second. I mean, look, if you're an employee, which maybe you are watching this, or even a founder, definitely a founder, because you get to make the decision. if you are using location tracking or even time tracking for people who aren't hourly paid, I mean, now if you're project based, I get it because you have to have that. But if you are using time tracking based off of you just want to see if these people are working, I had a demo yesterday and somebody showed me their time tracking um, software. And no offense to them, but I told them that's not how we want to operate. We're not going to put that into our software because it doesn't make sense for what we're trying to achieve. One of our mission is to make work more flexible, inclusive, and fulfilling for everyone. One of the ways to make people feel unfulfilled is to feel like they're being tracked, right? So, all right. Rant over. Let's look at the key focus here. We're calling this one in-person collaboration and accountability. So by 2024, PWC shifted to a more structured approach with a mandate requiring employees to spend at least 60% of their time in the office or with clients. Nothing wrong with that, but let's make it make sense. And then they said to enforce this, PWC introduced location tracking to ensure compliance. So two of the call outs here and quotes is hybrid flexibility, but with boundaries. Employees must spend 60% of their time in the office or with clients to foster strong client relationships and internal collaboration. So that's one quote. The second quote is location data will be monitored monthly to ensure the employees adhere to the new in-office expectations. What I will give them benefit on is the interviewer asked them, what happens if the employee tracks low on the amount of time that they were required to go into the office? And instead of saying that they would be fired, I don't know if it was because of a legal purpose or not, or they were just being politically correct or whatever the case is. They said we would try to understand why this happened. Right. And now just a little bit of a background from my understanding of this situation is PWC tried to do the return to office policy. It wasn't a full on mandate in the sense of you have to come into work 5 days a week. You have to be here all the time. It was more so we're going to have you come back into the office 3 days a week on site or at a client meeting or a client meeting. It could be in the office or lunch or whatever the case is. So I will give them credit a little bit that this new policy does not go directly to termination, but as we've seen with the RTO policies, and we have a video on there about that, where a lot of organizations use RTOs as a way to disguise volunteered layoffs. I almost wonder if this is the same case here, where it's a very much slow burn. And I think what they're trying to do in change management, there's a term or a quote or a phrase that says, if you can't change the behaviors, change the environment. And so maybe that's what they're doing here. I mean, they are professional services, they're consulting, they're people who are masters of change management. So they might have been able to say, we tried this and it didn't work. Not a lot of people came into the organization in the office. So we need to change the environment. How do we do that? We put trackers on people. Even saying that is just like, it gives me a bad taste in my mouth, because to go from 2019, where you're saying trust is given, not earned, and then to say you got to come back into the office, and if you don't, we will know because we are tracking your whereabouts. I'll just let that sink in for a second. Okay, so let's see what this next slide is. Yeah, so the shift in flexibility and trust. So 2019 to 2024, the evolution of flexibility. So what I'm going to be calling out here is some of the stuff on the slides and then some of the stuff that I have in my notes over here. So this one's going to be inclusivity and flexibility, 2019, and then we're going to go to monitoring and accountability. So let's talk about this for a second. 2019, PWC emphasized the flexibility was not, or that flexibility was not just for working parents, but for every employee, regardless of age or personal circumstances. And I think that's important, right? They are saying that, okay, go all in or don't go at all. And they're saying it's not just going to be for this subsection of people who might need a little bit more flexibility in their lives based off of the stereotypes of what we know, but it's going to be for everyone. So that is the inclusivity. And so the quote that I want to call out here is flexibility is for everyone, whether it's for caregiving, a midday run, or simply personal preference. PWC made flexibility accessible for all employees. And we're not even talking about like 100% remote or anything like that. I used to work at TIA Craft as a management consultant, very short stint, but they had something called Dress for Your Day. And that was actually, I mean, it was before the pandemic, but that was something that I've never seen. And it was basically like, if you have tons of meetings with clients, dress up. If you don't, you can wear something like this polo or whatever, you know? And so, I mean, but even PWC took it even further, and they were like, okay, well, here's flexibility. If you need to be in the office, you can be. If you don't need to be, but we just want to focus on the outcomes. Make sure that you are able to get your work done. It doesn't matter where you do it, how you do it, what you look like when you do it. Just get it done, right? But then we transition to 2024, and it says, in contrast, the 2024 policy introduces more structure around flexibility. While PwC still offers hybrid work, they are clear that face-to-face interaction is crucial to maintaining client services, employee development, and internal collaboration. Let's just go ahead and go to the quote. Flexibility now comes with clear expectations. Employees must follow a structured hybrid work plan to ensure face-to-face interactions that drive business outcomes. Now, that quote sounds good at surface level, but the big issue here is that it's not just that they're saying, yes, we still have flexibility, we're just going to be more structured, and here are the clear expectations of how we're going to approach that. All that stuff is fine, because that's what we've been encouraging people to do on this channel, is have a communications charter, have people understand how you need to communicate, have an operating agreement, have working hours where you're supposed to be working near an office, near a laptop, at your home, coffee shop, whatever the case is. You just want to have accessibility to you during these hours. It doesn't work for everybody. You don't have to have that, but that's another way to just give clarity around it. Have a remote work policy, have a flexible work policy, work from anywhere policy, whatever it is that you're focused on. The part that is the true issue here is the tracking of the location. Many Americans, and I'm speaking as American, don't want to have surveillance around them by the government. So why would they want or accept that they are going to be tracked by their organization? It doesn't make sense, and it only decreases trust with your employees. So I don't know the exact date of when this article came out. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Yeah, let's see. So this was from CNN, and it was September 6th. So this is very early stages of this announcement. And I would like to see the evidence on how employees are reacting to this. Now, this was a UK article, so I don't know if it's specific for the UK or if it's the entire company. I think it was the entire company, because they mentioned like 26,000 employees. I could be wrong. But it doesn't defeat the fact that we're talking about tracking employees. This was one of the issues with the traditional office. We're looking at people who have their butts in a seat and saying, Zach is a productive worker because he stays longer than 8 hours a day and he's sitting there doing what he needs to do. We don't actually know if that is possible. And one of the big things that I constantly talk about whenever I'm doing the Future of Work weekly report, or if I'm speaking to a Future of Work expert or someone running an organization flexible or in a flexible environment, is that the thing with remote work is that it has become a scapegoat to the actual challenges and gaps that we left open in the traditional office. And people are using remote work as that scapegoat. Now, they don't specifically target remote work, but what they do is they have shifted from trust and flexibility to surveillance of their employees. And so let's just look at this slide deck right here, or this slide right here. So trust was given freely, flexibility was fluid, employees decided when and where to work. Fast forward to now, trust is still there. I'd be surprised if it's at the same level. These people who work at PWC are probably no longer as committed as they were. Because we see with return to office policies, trust goes away almost immediately and people start looking for other positions. So trust is still there, but now it's verified through location tracking with hybrid work structured around in-office days. So trust is still there, but now it's verified through location tracking. That's like me saying to my wife, I trust you, but I want you to film every single thing that you do that day so I can review it later and just make sure that my trust was confirmed or verified. That's not how trust works. So I'd be interested to see what's going on here, or what will the repercussions be. So the key takeaway here is that flexibility has shifted from personal autonomy to structured, measurable policies that balance employees' needs with business objectives. I think that's even a stretch. I think that we're being nice to them here. But just to wrap this up, right? So with PWC, some of the things that we talked about is that flexibility was ingrained. It was a part of the cultural mindset based off of trust, autonomy, and employee empowerment in 2019. And now what PWC is saying, flexibility is now structured with specific rules and monitoring, ensuring employees comply with in-person work requirements while balancing hybrid work for efficiency. I never heard once in this article why they chose to do this. I never heard once in the 2024 article saying productivity has gone down and people haven't been able to do their jobs accurately or effectively or efficiently. Never heard that. And I never heard anything of the sort of PWC giving a reason to why they were going from everyday flexibility to a more structured approach, other than they tried to implement a return to office. We say that generously because it's more of like a hybrid structured return to office. So 3 days in the week, 60% of your week. We never heard a good reason for why they chose to do this. And to me, that is going to be a big issue for people who had the ability to be flexible even before the pandemic, probably during the pandemic, and nothing has changed. And now they have to do what a lot of workers hate doing, which is commute to the office. They have to get ready and dressed up. I think it was this article where one of the people said you have to kind of take it and adapt it to a mindset where You think about the good things of going to the office, like, oh, now I get to wear nice outfits again, or I get to do XYZ. But if flexibility is the actual thing that people want, then let them decide when they go into the office. It shouldn't affect you, since you didn't say that it was a productivity thing, which leads me to believe that it's probably more of a real estate issue rather than actually wanting to foster better connections with your employees or better connections with your clients, right? So this might have been, it's a different approach. Let me know if you like it in the comments. Let us know your thoughts about from sweatpants to surveillance. And again, we don't hate that people are becoming more strict about how they operate. We want that. We want people to understand, or companies to deliver clear expectations to their employees, so they don't have to wonder, like, oh, will I have to go back into the office at some point? Will I have to do XYZ? Will I have to move? Will I have to commute? Will I have to get childcare where I don't have to now because I work 100% remote? It's all these different things that come into play, and just take that into consideration whenever you're thinking about it. It's not those things that are the issue. It's the tracking of people that is the issue. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. Hopefully you like this. Hopefully it made sense. And I just wanted to do this because it's pretty important to see the shift without any substance, because that's the key takeaway that I got, was there's a shift without substance, and the outcomes are probably not going to be good for PWC. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next Future of Work Weekly Report.